Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And if this is your first time in the fire station, welcome. Hands up who's never been in this building before. Oh, excellent. Welcome. This is the fire station where Design Factory Melbourne runs a bunch of classes for students across multiple disciplines. So if that is interesting to you, we can have a chat. Otherwise, it's just a cool place that you can study, and we've got a microwave also. The other thing is we're also moving into working with more clients and doing innovation, selling our innovation products to the wider community. So that's also something really cool that we do. My name is Melanie Kalea. I had intended on making a joke about being the MC and also my initials being the MC. I can't think of one, but it's in there. So if someone's got one, please let me know so I can use it for next time. But I am your MC, essentially. That's somehow the joke in there. Can I just have a show of hands of who is a current student? Yeah, nice. It's so great to see you guys. Who's from, I think the only other people were design. Yeah, everyone's in design, aren't they? Yeah, cool. Who is an alumni of Swinburne? Put your hands up, I see you. Awesome. And who's I think I already did the student, alumni, and any other people who don't fit into those two categories. Awesome. Really great to see you guys as well. So welcome to the Bridging the Gap meetup event. We haven't done an event in a very long time, so we're very happy to have people back in the space. Before we get started, though, I would like to Design Factory Melbourne respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, of the traditional owners of the land on which Australian Swinburne campuses are located, and we pay our respects to elders who have walked before us, those who stand among us today, and honour Wurundjeri's enduring connection to land, sky, and waterways. Done that. Excellent. Now we can get started. I'm going to introduce to you guys the panel. Including our facilitator. So I'll start on that side. So Jake Carroll is the facilitator for today. He is our product manager here at Design Factory Melbourne. He's got a history of strategic design, business designs, worked in the US, in Spain, and we've snagged him, and now he's down here with us in Melbourne. So he's a really cool one to talk to. So please, round of applause for Jake. Let's get to the people. We've got next to Jake is Kieran Lewis, industrial designer. So these are all Swinburne alumni, as you all probably know. Currently working at Chevelio, focuses on research and development. Oh, how do you say it? Okay, that research. I'm gonna ignore. Yeah. Research and development for the soft seating department, also freelancer. And something that was really cool is not only is he helping out some of our students with some rendering, some of our master's projects and helping out in that department, but he's also a highlight of his career. He's had one of his lamps was selected to be created and manufactured and sold through About Space, which is a Melbourne-based company. So it's pretty exciting. And one of your takeaways, because I asked you to tell me this, was that from Design Factory Melbourne, your highlight was the high level of collaboration across multiple disciplines. So really cool to hear that. Round of applause to Kieran. Then we've got Kanika sitting next to him, used to be an industrial designer from India, now a service designer working in the people experience team at Reese Next Group. Kanika fell into strategic design after doing a master's with us here, and her collaboration with Design Factory led her all the way to Geneva and working with a project with CERN's Innovation Labs. So that's pretty cool. Very human-centered focus. Kanika also worked at Portable on digital projects, and for the past 3 years has been working in the Reese Group and has now just shifted into the people and experience team where she continues to help people understand their challenges, which is really cool. I love your quote, teamwork is the dream work. And although that's something you hear quite often, it was one of your reflections of something that you really valued from working or being a Design Factory. Round of applause to Kanika. Then we've got Manami. Manami actually was 15 years in the finance sector. and then did the flippity flop into design. So thank you for doing that. It's been great to have you here. And Minami is a consultant and project management manager for Capital Human. And you've done quite a few project management jobs in the innovation kind of sector, which has been really cool to see. So prior to this, you're blah, blah, blah. Prior to this, Minami also worked at Mind Tribes, which was a DEI consultancy, was a director of programs. Before that at Paddle, doing a lot of education and design thinking. You had some really cool stuff that you did as well. You launched some online community platforms for Mind Tribe. You facilitated and delivered a national innovation games at Paddle. And what you really loved about your time at Swinburne and Design Factory was the innovation mindset and how that's been necessary in pretty much every role that you've had. So also great to hear. Round of applause for Minami. Thank you for like splitting up as well. I'm just, maybe we need to swap you so it's like boy, girl, I don't know. And then following right at the end here is Stephen. And Stephen started off at at Swinburne with his Bachelor of Innovation and Design. And now you're a user experience consultant at BMI IX, which is the design sector.
Sorry, IBM IX.
Oh, IBM. What did I say? BMI? Just throwing letters around. Which is really cool. So that's great to hear. And also what I liked when I read your bio was that in your first 6 months, you managed to lead a project, a UX UI project for IBM blockchain solution with Telstra and Meat and Livestock Australia, which was really cool to read. You've supported and facilitated lots of sprints to help adopt new ways of working and integrating generative AI. So if anyone's got some AI questions, that's maybe a good one to direct it to. And you've just been a project manager for a bunch of really cool stuff. Your list was very long. And one of your key takeaways from Design Factory was really you can achieve a lot with a great team, empathy, and curiosity. So it's great to hear as well. Round of applause for Stephen. I'm now going to pass on to Jake, who's going to lunch.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you, everyone, for coming. There's a lot of you out there. It's great. You guys want to pass down our makeshift microphone. So how is this going to run is we're going to ask you a little bit more about your individual journeys, and then we'll move into a bit of the skills that you may have brought with you from DFM or Swinburne and what you've learned on the job. And then later in the conversation, we'll get to the culture and collaborative nature of the work that you do. So we'll start with a bit of an exploration of each of one of your journeys. Maybe we'll start with Stephen, if you want to pass down. Stephen, you've had 6 different roles at IBM iX, and then I saw you had 2 roles at IBM previous to that. Is that true?
Yeah, it's I think the interesting thing with working in consulting, especially for a big company like IBM, is that you're not really tied down to one particular hat. You have the opportunity to wear a lot of multiple different hats, which for me was unintended. I went in with the expectation when I got the job that I will be focusing on UX UI design. But I ended up doing a whole bunch of project management work, talent acquisition, resourcing, and just doing a whole bunch of stuff that's completely non-design related. But it has really actually helped me become a better designer, just simply because having those different skills, being part of my core skill set as a designer, actually complemented for a variety of more different projects. So what that allowed me to do was that it gave me the competency to work on more complex projects, which then impacted more people in a more positive way. So yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting that the diversity of the different experiences that you've had have helped your practice. I'm curious about the other way around, how your design practices helped equip you to take on these different things. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I think one of I can speak from my own experience from a project management point of view that sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in the details. Sometimes you get tunnel vision when you're really focusing on something that you need to get done straight away, or we need to get this particular finance model correct. We need to get these different people onto the project in order to make a app, for instance. And it's easy to get bogged down in the details, but the good thing about the skills that I picked up from a design point of view, both in DFM and just as a designer in general, is that to never forget the lens of keeping the human in the picture and keeping the user in the picture. I think in a lot of, especially big companies, this is lost across the business, is that you forget the people that you're solving the problem for in the end. Being a designer means having a human-centered lens and bringing the human voice to the conversation, to whatever problem that you're trying to solve. Yes, you might be changing the color on a button, or you might be trying to choose which paint works better for this particular audience. But at the end of the day, you're focusing on solving a problem that affects humans and affects people, and that's the lens you should always go back to. And I think that has especially allowed us to create solutions that are more widely adopted by our user base as well when we actually went to launch whatever we were to launch, whether it be a new website or a new app.
Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think that focus on keeping the human at the center of everything you do is a great segue to Manami. You want to pass along? Manami, you came from traditional finance background and now you're kind of in the design world. A couple of things. One central theme from your recent work really stuck out to me, and is that you have focused a lot on helping humans better themselves through some of the work, L&D stuff that you've done at Pebble, and you've helped communities become better versions of themselves through various equity types of programs, and that's at your last couple of companies. I'm curious what drew you to these types of themes, and how has your design practice kind of injected into your new working world?
Thank you, and thank you for having me. So I come from a complete non-design background, and I was the oldest student in my master's. I literally had kids. No one else even had kids. So anything is possible. So that is my message to you today. It's like, and I feel design and my design practice, I didn't even call myself a designer for a very long time. I was like, I'm a non-designer. I don't know anything about fonts and anything about graphic design. I can't draw. So now I feel that design can be anything that you want it to be. And for me, what shaped a lot of the work that I do and I'm doing and looking forward to doing is social impact and for purpose. My final project, which I did with Mel, was on narcolepsy. And I can tell you that it's a chronic condition. We know it backwards, Mel and I. So if you want, if you want to know anything about narcolepsy, you can come and ask me. I do not come from a health background. I have no knowledge of any medical chronic conditions whatsoever. But doing that project taught me a couple of things. One is, as a designer, and we have a duty to not only put the user, but really look at the impact we make in our work for the individual, for society, for community. And I think that led to a lot of the roles that I took on after that. I worked at a startup called Paddle, which I ran basically the National Innovation Games, which brought together government, students like yourselves on tackling the really hard stuff. One of the projects was fast fashion. One of them was renewable energy. So really hard topics where you need all these different skill sets. So don't box yourself into, I'm this. It's really exploring that, which really helped me to then go to the next role that I took on, which was, again, diversity inclusion. I had no idea about it. But because of my skill set in terms of working with people, working in projects, project management, those kind of things really helped me then shape that role into firstly, what I was good at, and secondly, learning on the job as well. So I would say that's always helped my design practice in terms of always taking my skill set and advancing it and learning something new in the next role. And currently, I'm actually working for my sister's consultancy, which is called Capital Human. I'm working on a project for Asian Development Bank, looking at micro SMEs, which are women-led. So if you're going to go very specific niche, that's where it is. Looking at countries like Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, who are struggling. Firstly, if you look at gender balance and then look at finance. So that's where my finance expertise comes in, just really struggling to get access to finance and build up their enterprises, but it's very much needed. So research skills come into it, project management skills, and then my finance skills. So you can see you always bring in a whole lot of different skill sets from all my different roles.
I love something that you brought up is that, or what I heard through that is that, yes, you can practice design methodologies and learn different design tools, but at the end of the day, they are tools. And so those tools, along with all the other tools that you bring to the table, can help fight that designer imposter syndrome you might have felt, and honestly give you a superpower when you are put in different perspectives. And speaking of different perspectives, we can move to Kanika.
Good segue there.
Your practice has brought you to a lot of different industries, from portable, which I would imagine works with very purpose-driven impact projects, through to being a mentor at Academy XI, being a researcher and project manager at Charles Elena, and now with Reese Group. I'm curious, this range of experience you have practicing in a variety of different industries, how that has affected your practice, or how has your practice changed when being applied to different industries?
Great question, and thanks for having me here. I come from, my undergrad was in interior design, so completely different to what I'm doing now. I practiced in Mumbai for 3 years after doing my undergrad there, traveled across China and Africa for my work. And then when I came here to do my Master of Design, I stumbled upon Design Factory and ended up doing the CERN project. That's when I really understood what human-centered design is, and I understood what the double diamond process is all about, which is a way of thinking for designers, for people, a more holistic view of looking at design. And I felt like I was in a bubble doing interior design, just that little bubble of designing someone's office or a house space. And I felt like I like the people side of things, and that's what I want to explore. So that kind of took me to Portable, which is where I ended up working with Victoria Legal Aid, Respect Victoria, and ANZOG, which is Australia and New Zealand School of Government. And we did some digital projects there where I understood what it was like to design digital services and products for people who come from very vulnerable backgrounds. So for someone who's been in jail for 6 months and is out trying to be fighting a case in court, what does Victoria Legal Aid look like for them on a digital platform? And that is so different from interior design. So I really enjoyed doing the people side of things there, and really putting myself in the shoes of the people I was designing for. And that's when I realized, like, this is my space. I like this jam. I come from a completely different country. I did my master's here, and I love to experience and explore culture, and the people space is where I want to play it. And that kind of took me to Reese, where I'm now designing capability programs for someone who's been a driver at the Reese Group selling and delivering plumbing products, who's been in the business for 20 years, to a branch manager who's been in a business for 40 years and running a shop for Reese. So I guess the people side of things is what drove the passion in me to explore human-centered design and service design.
I imagine going from India to Africa, China, and now Australia, you probably have a pretty well-rounded worldview, and that only adds to the empathy in your design practice.
Yeah, and that's where I learned how to put people in front of my head before I do anything in any practice. So
amazing. Thank you. I have no fun segue. Kieran.
Why am I even here?
I thought I could do all 4 of them, but no. Your current work is really interesting because you operate in both the quote unquote employed world and also the freelance world, which I think it sounds amazing and it comes with a lot of freedom. But I'm curious if it also gets romanticized a bit. So could you tell us a little bit about how your design practice is different working for a company and working freelance?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'll say you guys have really impressive careers, and I feel very out of place. I only finished uni last year, so I'm still quite new to the industry. I've been working at Scavello doing research and development for soft seating, which is couches and booths and stuff like that. And then I do a lot of freelance work on the side as well, as Jake just said, which can be anything from sort of product design and more industrial design, but also I've been doing a lot of graphic design and websites and packaging design and product renders for websites and everything like that. So I pretty much just say yes to everything. If someone needs something that's slightly creative, I try and say yes and then quickly learn and then essentially get them to pay me to learn something. So that's my current goal. As far as managing time and stuff like that compared to sort of freelance compared to being employed, it's pretty hectic. At the moment, I'm sort of working like 7:30 to 3:30 for Scavello most days, and then I get home at 4:30, eat, and then go back to work and do my own stuff till about 8 o'clock. That's most days, and then weekends as well is usually doing a little bit of work for myself, personal projects, and then other clients and stuff like that. So it definitely is romanticized. If you kind of think that working for yourself is going to be like really easy and just chill, do like 2 hours a day and someone pays you like 10 grand a week, it's not quite like that. Not yet, at least. So fingers crossed. But my goal is ultimately to work for myself. It's like so much more rewarding, like not having a boss and like getting to do your own thing and sort of making decisions and stuff is really fun. And I enjoy that side of design more than anything.
Amazing. I also wouldn't sell yourself short. You're the only bio out of 5 with an award in it. So,
So far.
Thank you for that. I'm curious if you see, the freelance world, especially when you're straddling having a job and freelance, is difficult. But you had mentioned that you want to move eventually into full-time freelance. I'm curious what draws you to the freelance world beyond just not having a boss.
There's probably 2 things. One is a big one is not having a boss. The other one is I have a pretty big ego and I would like to be in charge of everything that I do. And I don't like being told what to do, basically. So, but I do like to work and I like to design things. So I think I'll be a pretty good fit for that, hopefully, if I can get to that stage. But yeah, right now the goal is to just say yes to everything. And it's kind of why I'm here.
Yeah.
Although I feel a little bit set up considering these guys have so much experience.
I
But
love to say yes to everything.
yeah, if you're looking to do the same thing, honestly, just like learn as many skills as you can and just literally just put your hand up to everything and learn on the spot because pretty much everyone's just making it up as they go along.
Amazing. Do you feel like you get a bit more freedom and autonomy with the freelance work because people are coming to you specifically for your skill set?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like really cool having skills that people want. I don't know how to explain it. Like I worked a lot of like crappy jobs in uni and stuff, bartending and stuff that anyone could do. But when you get to a stage where like you kind of have a little bit of power when you're negotiating for work and people ask if you can do things and you can give them a time frame and I don't know, there is a lot of freedom to it, although it's very busy. It's really rewarding as well. So
Amazing.
if you are interested in it, I would recommend.
Cool. You can say yes and no to work. Currently saying yes to everything, but eventually saying no.
Not yet. Not yet.
Amazing. Well, I want to open up a little bit and talk a little bit about the skills that you brought from school and let's say the realities of what you were taught in school versus the working world. So Kieran, maybe we can start with you and then we'll go back down. You're back on the spot. So let's say what non-design skills have you learned in the working world that you use now?
The biggest one, which was quite a big learning point from, from Design Factory was communicating with different people from different backgrounds. In my job, obviously I do R&D, which involves like a lot of tech drawings and stuff like that. But I essentially have to communicate between the owner of the company all the way down to the guy that glues foam onto the frame and stuff like that. So learning to communicate with different people at different levels has been really, really valuable. Yeah.
Kanika?
Thank you. For me, it's teamwork. Coming from a different culture back in India, I don't think I really honed on to team skills. I can't say that I was the best teammate, but Design Factory really taught me how to be resilient and work in a team, especially with people from a diverse background or different and with different perspectives and different skills. Like I had an industrial designer with me, and I also had a comms designer with me. I also had someone with me who was working at Bupa for 10 years. So a whole other skill set. And that Design Factory really did teach me teamwork. So did my projects at Swinburne. However, I think when I go back and when I think of what I've learned, how it's different, teamwork is different from working in an organization like Reese. I think it's a bit of stakeholder influencing. And that's what I think at uni doesn't really let you explore that, because when you're working in a team, you're also in a safe space. At uni, everyone has equal power. But when you go into an organization, you're also reporting to someone who is at the CEO level minus them, a general manager, and so on and so forth. So how do you actually go into a room, be confident about your idea and sell it to them? Because they know the business better than anyone else, and they're going to throw you 100 more questions than a teacher would throw at you. So how do you influence stakeholders who have more power? I think that's kind of the shift between teamwork in a more safe space versus teamwork in a space where you often find yourself in a very timid or vulnerable spot, I guess.
I did see a couple of Post-its out there that were around some like apprehension
Mhm.
for the I don't know, having pressure to perform in
Yeah.
the working world, and there's some imposter syndrome notes
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've learned in this sort of realization to try and find how to provide influence without direct authority?
I think honesty. I think honesty is. That's my personal opinion. It's brought me a long way. My first job, when I applied, I said I actually went up to one of their neighborhood drinks where they allowed people from outside the office to come in and have a drink and mingle with them. I went up to the CEO and said, "Hey, I've seen a position on your LinkedIn jobs, and it's for a senior role, but I'm junior and I'm here to learn. So." I'm going to be honest, I'm coming with no experience. Same thing at work. There have been times where I've been in a room with I have no idea how they're going to react, and they're very senior people in the room. And before I start, I say, look, I'm very nervous. So if I do stammer and stumble, please excuse me. This is the first time I'm doing this. So I think when you show yourself as someone who's vulnerable and you show some honesty, I think they mellow down as well. Because otherwise you can't read that on paper when they come back to you with an email saying, "Oh, you didn't make it to the job." I just don't know how they're feeling. But if you're honest and vulnerable to them, they might actually respond better.
And beyond the honesty and vulnerability, it's really setting expectations up front to say, hey, here's the situation that we're in.
Yeah,
You can meet those expectations.
yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Manami,
What was the question? We answered that on
what
fire.
in your work today, what sort of non-design skills do you use most often?
Okay, so I know it's very hard to believe for some of you out there because I'm sitting on this side, but I'm a complete introvert as the definition goes. So going from introvert, non-designer, never have great respect for industrial. I have no idea how to do industrial design or communication design or graphic design. So imposter syndrome was very real for me, and being older and pivoting my career. So I will say to you, I felt very much where a lot of you are sitting, if you're graduating going, oh my God, what am I going to do? Is I would say very much like say yes to stuff, say yes to putting yourself out there and trying things. In terms of if I loved innovation and I loved everything we did at Design Factory. And so I said yes to just facilitating a design thinking project. And my team came second, of course, because, you know, trained at Swinburne. learn. And I would say there are some universal skills, if you've picked up on it, things like communication, project management, research skills, and also look at sectors that you want to work in. So for me, that served me really well because I was very open to opportunities, and I knew where my expertise was. You know, you look at the subjects you do and you go, oh my God, I have to do this assignment and whatever, but think about why you're learning what you're learning at university and what the real world implications are. And look at people, I would say, network events, Slack spaces and things are really good, served me really well. Similar to Kanika, I would just approach people and go, I'm graduating or I've graduated. I'm really interested in the work that you do. Would you have a 15-minute, you know, time to have a chat with me? You're not asking them for a job. You just want to know what they do, what the organization does, what their role does. And it served me really well in terms of then opportunities opening up and one thing leads to another and people get to know you. You still have to formally apply, but it makes it so much easier because you know exactly what they're looking for and you can do it. And that served me really well. So translating your academic knowledge, which that's what you have. You have that. A lot of people won't have that. And then your unique personality and what you want to do it really helped me in terms of getting roles and moving on to the next thing, and you build on it.
I love your emphasis on continually asking why. Not only in asking why you're learning the things that you're learning and how you can apply them to other places, but you've now mentioned imposter syndrome twice. And I think asking why in that scenario is really important too, because if you're in a spot where you feel imposter syndrome, asking yourself why, you're probably in that spot for a reason. And so that may give you some extra confidence to know that you're in that spot for a reason. Stephen, you probably ask why a lot at IBM.
We have to. It's part of our job. It's part of my job. Yeah, some fantastic answers here, and I 100% agree with everyone, with what everyone has said, actually. My take on it is a little bit different. I had a few, but I'm going to narrow it down to one. For me, I think that the one non-design skill that I found really helped myself, like with personal development, developing my skills, and my career as well, is just experimenting. Now, we're in DFM and we're all about experimentation, moments of serendipity, finding opportunity, finding sparks of inspiration from seemingly nothing. And this is like the perfect space, is the perfect example for that to take place. I think that for me, because I'm also a little bit introverted as well, I'm not naturally an extrovert. There are some amazing extroverts working within IBM, especially our design team. There's some super high energy people. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. I don't have the highest amount of energy in the room. But what I found helped me sort of break out of my shell is just being open to experimenting and being open to failure, trying things, seeing how they work. Even if you feel like, oh, I would never take on project management. I never thought I would take on any project management roles. But then it just sort of happened. I was like, okay, you need someone, I'll take the chance. I said yes to it, not because I was curious about it, just because I had to. And I experimented along the way to eventually become, I hope, a decently competent project manager as well as a designer. But even with design, I had to self-teach myself UX UI design. I don't know UX UI. That's not part of my Bachelor of Innovation and Design. It was more doing these workshops, service design, a little bit of business design. It wasn't pure designing websites, wireframes, apps, all these kinds of things. All of that I had to learn on the fly just because I was open to experimenting. I was open to failing. I would go to networking events and I couldn't strike a conversation with anyone. And I would just freeze. I was like, I don't know what to say. I have nothing in common with this person who's like, he's been a managing director for like 10 years. What the heck do I say? But it's just continuously putting myself out there, trying different things, seeing what works, learning from the results, and just building upon that. It's doing that process of iteration, but instead of applying that to projects or your side projects or your studies, applying that to your life, continuously improving yourself using design principles and experimenting with what works. Be a mad scientist in a way, do some crazy things, have some crazy ideas, try them out, do freelance, go into DNI, go in, take that trip to Fiji or Tonga, experience everything and just pick things up along the way. Yes, you'll stumble. Yes, you'll fall, but I can guarantee you'll pick something up that will stick with you that you can use for the rest of your life. So yeah, highly encourage everyone to experiment, keep experimenting. Don't be afraid to fail, even when it feels like really daunting. It's short-lived. It's short-lived. You'll get through it, I guarantee. So yeah.
Amazing. I felt that. I'm gonna go travel. I really like the emphasis on saying yes and experimentation, because you learn in your design practice that that is often the fastest path to find what's right for the end user, but you put it really well that it's often the fastest path to find what's right for you. I'm going to move us along because we are behind time and I could use your project management skills. This question is for the group, so anyone feel free to grab the ruler or protractor or whatever that thing is. Anything looking back that you wish you had learned in school?
I'm not going.
There's a couple of eyes on me. I'm just okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. I think one of the biggest things that has been so pivotal to my career, especially in what I do, either as a designer, as a project manager, or whatever other role or hat they decide to put on me, is being able to communicate value. Now, I'm sure some of you might have heard it, the word value. Like, what does value mean? It means different things in different contexts. In IBM, and this is my own sort of meaning that I've put on it, I believe value is a way that you can make someone's life better. And how I think about it is that, and this is something that you don't learn in school. You don't even learn it in uni, at least not what I studied. But my mental framework and model for it is that businesses exist to create value. If businesses cannot create value, they cannot stay in business. If they're not solving a problem in the market, they cannot stay in business. Businesses exist to create value. Value is created through pain alleviation. So for anyone familiar with service design or design in the room, they know that the key job of a designer is to solve user pain points and make the experience better, whatever that might be. And pain alleviation is achieved when you solve problems. It's at the core of what it is. And I define it as value-based problem solving. And it's looking at that definition. And what's particularly difficult is being able to communicate that value in a way that people understand. So I can stand here and talk to all of you and talk to you about the wonders of generative AI, how you can use AI in your business and blah, 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 or in your app or in your solution. But you won't understand it unless I communicate it in the right way. And I think a lot of people like throwing buzzwords like AI, blockchain, all these things around. But unless you can design a solution in a way that actually solves user problems, it's pointless putting them in. And also being able to communicate that in a way that people will understand what problem that your solution is actually solving. If you cannot do that, people won't understand what you design. You could design an amazing thing. You could design something that looks incredibly cool, and no one will really want it simply because they don't understand what you understand. You love your solution and what you've created because it looks cool and in your mind it solves a problem. But being able to communicate that is to people that you don't know is very, very difficult. And I think if I were to go back in time and I could change the curriculum somehow, it would be learning how to communicate value to customers and users. For anyone interested, there is a fantastic free online course, and I'm not being sponsored, but there's a Harvard Business School micro course that's completely free. It's literally called Communicating Value. And they do this amazing experiment where they get two participants sitting opposite sides of each other on a table. And essentially what they do is they tap a song in their head that they're very familiar with, and that's a popular song. They tap on the table, and then the person sitting opposite side to them has to guess what song that they're actually tapping. Now, the interesting thing from this little experiment, this little activity, is that Harvard found that I think it was 93% of people guessed incorrectly. And the lesson there is that we may have something in our head that's like, wow, this is revolutionary. But then when you try and communicate it, or when you try to tell people about it, aka when you're trying to tap it out, that other person doesn't actually know what it is, even if it's something that's like an existing idea. So I think, yeah, I think just learning how to communicate value, learning how to communicate in a way that people can understand and resonate with, I think is quite important. It's a skill that's taken a long time for me to, well, learn, which I haven't quite perfected yet, but I'm still getting there. I'm on the journey. So yeah,
Amazing.
that's something I would
Great.
love for future curriculums.
Great. Thank you. Manami.
I'm going to add to that and give you a very practical example that related to me. You're going to walk out of here with, well, I did anyway, with all this amazing knowledge, and you can't wait to apply it. Like, I know design thinking, innovation, I know this. No one cares. No one cares how much you know, right? That I learned the hard way. So at Paddle, they have an app, and I was like, oh my God, we need to do user research. And I spent a long time, I would like to say weeks, maybe not weeks, doing this beautiful user research plan. No one cared. No one cared. They're just like, we don't have the budget for that. Just go and do something. So I ended up just doing focus groups with the students that I did, literally on Zoom. It's still the middle of COVID, blah, blah. And I got the information I needed. I actually just translated the principles that I'd learned at Swinburne in terms of user researched. And I didn't need to teach anyone else what I knew about doing research. I just did it. And so I found that I don't know how you can teach that at university, but it's very rigorous training that you go through at university. You do assignments and you do projects and you get graded on it. In the real world, it's like what Stephen said, value, it's doing it. You actually have to do the work, and you do it. You do the work. No one's going to say, I'm going to give you a B, go and improve it, or no, you can do that. And there's no peer group sometimes to go, hey, let's work on this together. No, you're the only solo person. And I think you're going to go, freelancing is a bit like that. You're the knowledge. You don't share the knowledge, you do the work, I would say. And I don't think university necessarily prepares you for that, but, and I don't know how they could, unless you do like actually work on real life projects, which we kind of did, but that is the best skill. Like, you just go with the confidence, you've done a degree, you've got these knowledge. How do I apply that in my role?
I'm going to keep it really short. I know you're running on time. I would just say, what's your elevator pitch? So if you were to explain your idea or your thoughts to someone in an elevator, how simply could you do that? Or if you had to explain to an 8-year-old what you're doing, what would you say? If you don't have an answer to this, you're keeping things very complex and you're not keeping things simple. So I think I just say elevator pitch and 8-year-old.
I don't have a lot of experience to draw on here, but I guess one of the big ones, I don't know how you teach it at uni, but something I've noticed in the workplace, particularly like a big workplace, is spending months on a project and putting hundreds of hours into it. And then it's sort of come to a deadline, and then it just get completely cut off. And that's it. And there's no payoff, and nothing gets made, and that's just the end of it. And it's like what you've been like thinking about for the past few months is not, I don't know how you teach it at uni, but it's not something I was really prepared for. So it's quite demoralizing to have something like that, which sounds kind of negative. You guys are really positive and like happy, but
Wow. How have you dealt with that in the past?
just cry.
Start freelancing.
Yeah, basically. No, I guess like there's always sort of the next project that you get sort of pushed onto, and there's always something coming up. So it's good to sort of move on to that thing. But yeah, I don't know, you're not really like taught about it at uni, how that sort of happens. And I imagine you guys have probably experienced that at big companies. Yeah, maybe I'll learn how to deal with it one day.
I would imagine in the freelance world, especially when you're working with so many different clients and on so many different projects. And
Mm.
in your case, very impressively, so many different mediums.
Sure.
You probably end up finding a lot of fulfillment in the practice itself and in the
Yeah.
improvement,
Yeah.
as well as shipping the thing.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, I've worked in many places where you throw away a lot of work, so.
Yeah, you do learn a lot along the way, which is if you can sort of value the education part of it and try and take something out of it, that's probably a good way to, I guess, look at projects.
Cool.
So you've helped me there. Thank you.
Want to transition a little bit into the work culture. We've talked a lot about, ourselves, our skills, what we've brought with us to the working world, but part of leaving the bubble of the classroom is that you get to join a much bigger bubble. And so I'm curious how you feel like the work culture, especially working maybe with non-designers, how that experience has gone now that you're out of this classroom.
Yeah. Me first? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's been an adjustment period. I, at university, was kind of a bit of a talkative idiot, and I'm sure Mel and Aaron can attest to that. I'm surprised they invited me back, which has only gotten me in trouble at work once, so that's been all right. But working for a big company, it's communicating with people is quite different, and I'm very unprofessional in the way that I talk to people. And when you're dealing with people who are worth a lot of money, that isn't the best way to communicate with them sometimes. But I'm not going to have good advice here. I kind of just keep doing it, and yeah, I don't know. I really don't have anything good to say for this. Probably don't do what I'm doing and just, learn to treat people with respect and yeah, yeah. I've got nothing. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Has the relationship been different between the work that you do at, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, Scavello, and the relationship that you have with your freelance clients?
I treat them both the same, which is probably where it goes wrong. But I do tell my boss that I will be a smart ass as long as I keep doing good work. You won't fire me. So that's kind of how I'm operating at the moment, and
I mean,
it's working. So
yeah,
I got to stick with it.
to Kanika's point, you're setting expectations early.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't expect me to be professional, but the work is pretty good. So,
Amazing. Thank
yeah.
you. Kanika.
Oh, I think I'm going to bring that culture aspect back to the big learning curve for me, especially working at Race and where most of the end customers are tradies. And I'm talking to a tradie in Queensland, regional Queensland, with a very heavy Australian accent, and he cannot understand my Indian accent. And we're both just going at each other like, what? What did you say? So obviously the whole culture aspect for me was it's big learning curve. But I think one thing that I like to continue improving on my practice is to constantly ask for feedback. And yes, we do it. We did it with our teachers in Swinburne, or did it at Design Factory with the I like, I wish, I wonder practice at Design Factory. But even just asking someone who's who works as a driver in my organization, being like, do you think we covered everything in this conversation? Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share? Just so that we leave no room for no information, because I may have missed something. And again, bringing back to that culture, it's big learning curve. Give you a small example. I like having lunch in an agency here. And on a round communal table, we're all having lunch, and I haven't finished my lunch, and everyone's finished, and they get up and they leave. And I'm like, hang on, I'm still having my lunch. Why have you left me alone? Because you don't do that in culture back home. Like you eat together and you all get up together. But I guess I just learn along the way, and just be resilient, and you'll just learn as you go, and just keep asking for feedback. It's okay to ask there's nothing like silly questions. Just ask. I don't know how to do this. I don't understand what someone's saying. Can you help me explain? And you'll find yourself go a long way.
That's probably consistent through school and the workforce.
Yeah.
A lot of your
Yeah.
answers are very transparency driven. On the front end, setting expectations, and on the back end, asking for feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm the complete opposite to Karen. I don't talk at all. Like I just like don't talk at work if I can help it. So my biggest shock was I went from a very big corporate consulting culture. Then my first role out of uni was a startup. And if freelance is one of those things where people romanticize, I can tell you people romanticize startups a lot. So it was a lot of fun. Where I worked is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hard work. And I would say in terms of workplace, for me, the biggest shock was I was it. I was the project manager. I was delivering programs. I was designing programs. I was facilitating. I was doing everything. And that again, not what you do at uni, because you have a team or you do one thing, one subject. And also when you're not in a big organization, the person who is your boss is also the HR person. It's also the person who cleans up after an event and stuff. So you kind of adjust to doing everything, whatever needs to be done. No set hours. There's no 9 to 5. It's like I would work till 9 o'clock if we were delivering at games and things like that. But I learned a lot in terms of application of the theory. And so for me, learning about the workplace culture in a startup was good grounding for then the next role that I did, which was, again, using all those kind of skill sets in terms of when to speak up, how to speak up, why you should speak up, and translating your educational skills into practical workplace skills. What does your workplace need from you, and how can you do that using all the skill sets that you have, in not just your design skills or your background skills in terms of theory, but any casual jobs you might have had, any clubs you might have been at uni. How do you translate and bring that experience into the workplace? Because that's why they're hiring you. Like, you have to remember that's why they're bringing you in there. So for me, that any workplace is always a shock, but it's a good shock, and you can learn from it. So yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with everything you guys have just said so far. As you could imagine, in a big company like IBM, as a global company, we work with other countries as well, especially with India. So we have offshore teams who, if I'm designing a new website, we would need to, if we don't have developers in Australia or in Melbourne, or if, everyone's just busy with many other projects, we would have to work with people overseas. This could be people from Texas, has a very strong IBM design department over there, and India for the developers. There was a time that we had to jump on a call with some people from London as well, because it was a cross collaboration across the different regions in IBM to get a project done. I think the big thing with the IBM culture is that it exposes you to a wide variety and diverse range of people. So learning how to converse with people from India, with highly technical people. These people are super smart. They're geniuses at what they do. And trying to understand, try to understand some of the language that they use around, like this JavaScript thing or this React language. It's difficult. So building up that technical, a little bit of that technical language understanding is really good, especially because we are going into the age of AI. Like, more places all over the place are going to try and use and build in all these new technologies. So it's quite, I think personally, it's quite important to understand the trends and where we're heading, even in the design industry with all these new technologies happening. But then I also think as well, it's also less corporate than you might expect. People are quite nice in the real world, as much as some dramas and TV shows may show otherwise. I mean, Succession's a great example for anyone who likes corporate drama shows. It's not that intense, and if it is, I would definitely quit. Straight up, that's a massive red flag. You'll find that people are not a lot nicer than you would think. You may think it's scary talking to this director, talking to this person who seems so higher up. I had to get into a call with about a dozen partners and associate partners for anyone who is not familiar with the consulting hierarchy, partners are pretty high up. They're very, very senior people, and they're very business oriented. So it can seem daunting, but if you speak to some of these people and you get to sort of know them and you get to put your empathy hat on and try to understand the place that they're coming from as well, you'll find that you can have some pretty cool conversations with them. That's not strictly work related. You know, there's like stuff about their lives and people's lives that I think are quite interesting. And I think that's the kind of culture in IBM. It's more of a flat hierarchy. And because it's more of that flat hierarchy, you can actually communicate with a wide variety of people. You work with a wide variety of people from different disciplines. And through that, you pick up skills and you pick up a ability to communicate that I think will serve you, like that serves me very, very well for all areas of my life. Just talking to people from different nationalities, being able to understand them, being able to put myself in their shoes as well and see where they're coming from to more effectively work together for whatever that we may do. Yeah.
I really like the emphasis on maintaining empathy and maintaining a human-centered approach to the way you work, not only on the product for the end user, but also internally. I think that'll bring us to the last topic before we get into some Q&A. You had mentioned, both you and Kanika had mentioned some remote collaboration. I think we talked a little bit about the work culture, but I'm also curious to know, you know, a lot of schoolwork, the collaboration is done around a table, in person, very synchronous. And the working world's not always like that. So I'm curious what your take is on the remote and hybrid collaboration and any parting wisdom you can give folks.
I guess there's always challenges with remote work, and we've all been exposed to remote work just a few years ago. So I still feel like it's in a very raw form, and to perfect it, it's going to take years. But I think even setting up a hybrid remote space and keeping everyone, I guess, having a safe space online is the key. I totally understand if you don't know who's the other person in the room. But I think even starting off a meeting or starting off a conversation with an icebreaker, like if you were a movie or if you were a superhero, what would you be and why? Just getting to know them a bit before you actually start to have a 2-hour meeting with them to try and solve a complex challenge. Because you honestly don't know who you're going to be dealing with. It's so different from working face to face. So yeah, just being yourself and just creating that safe space and warming up the room, whether it's hybrid or face to face, doesn't really matter. As long as you get to know them and be closer to them, it'll help, whether you're hybrid or you're not hybrid. Hope that answers your question.
Anyone else?
I'll just say that if you've gone to uni here and if you know things like Miro and Slack and Trello and things like that, guarantee you're going to run into people who never people still don't know how to Zoom. Okay. So you will be teaching a lot of people basic technical skills that you have taken for granted all these years. And I have taught people how to use a mouse on Miro. Trust me, very senior people. So know that you know things that people out there, they might have the role titles and the jobs and things, they don't know. So tech skills are a really good skill to have, and research skills are very good to have. So online collaboration, to your point, is to kind of like in terms of in a physical space, you can read the room. So much more difficult online. So I think being prepared is the key, knowing that people may not have tech skills, don't know how to turn on a camera. They might suddenly be on the mobile phone, not on the laptop. All those little things that no one tells you when you're at uni because you're expected to have your camera on and your laptop on.
That's brilliant, Kanika and Manami. I think it is so true. I'm just listening to it, I'm just like, yes, I deal with this like on a daily basis. A good example actually of dealing with this sort of more hybrid or remote work environment, we recently worked with Charles Sturt University. They're a regional university in New South Wales. We recently did an awesome design sprint with them to help them create new micro courses as part of like just retrofitting some existing curriculum, but modernizing it and making it a bit more bite-sized and digestible for a particular audience. One of them was for like teaching primary and secondary teachers how to use AI tools like ChatGPT, all those things, and how to incorporate them into the classroom as part of their practice in teaching. Now, this was a 5-day intensive sprint, and as you can imagine, like normal people don't understand the intensity of a 5-day sprint. And a 5-day sprint is very intense. We have to go through the entire design process from ideation to finalizing the concept to get it ready to pretty much be put on a website and someone buys it within 5 days. And as you can imagine, you know, these are more older people, lecturers of that course or course conveners and chancellors and all these different teachers. They're not familiar with the way we work remotely. We had a model where we had a few facilitators in person in Wagga, and then we had a few people working online in Melbourne and in Sydney. So what that translated to was a lot of trying to get onto Microsoft Teams, making sure people know how that tool works, trying to figure out, like, get through a lot of audio issues and trying to get people to understand, like, learn how to use the Miro board, how you can put sticky notes all over the place so that we can do our different brainstorming and ideation sessions. So that was great fun. No, it was great fun. I mean, it had its challenges, but it is fantastic when you're able to take someone through that design process. And even though it is more challenging remotely, it is, I think, a definitive skill that is so important in the 21st century. There's gonna be more remote work. You know, we've seen from the last few years, remote work has just boomed. It's a vital skill. And to Manami's point, like, yes, you'll all have like sort of these digital skills that you picked up during, you know, uni, using Miro, whatever whiteboarding tools, and other people just won't know them. But having that patience, having that empathy to know that, okay, you know what, let's just go through this a bit more slowly, and taking them through that process, I think is going to be really, really valuable. And I think overall, keep honing those skills, keep honing those online facilitation skills, remote facilitation skills. I think they're going to be one of the greatest tools in your belt as a designer when you're going into the workplace, especially one that's working semi-remotely or fully remotely as well. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Curious, Kieran. What does the freelance collaboration look like?
Yeah, I can do that.
You like it?
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna be
good.
collaborating from a beach in Bali soon, so
It's like I don't have to like deal with other people. I can just do it all myself. And it's like, oh, it's so much faster. And you can just ask the client what they want. I literally will give them like dot points, like this is what you need, or they'll give me dot points, and then I can just work with it. And it's like I don't have to deal with like 60-year-olds who can't use like computers and stuff. This, oh God, it kills me. Freelancing is awesome. It's really good. It's the best. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one thing that's really helped is sending a pre-read pack or sending something 2 or 3 days prior to the hybrid session. Please read this and come, whether it's instructions on how to use Slack or Miro or what we're going to do on the day, or just a bit of background on the project so that when they come, we don't spend 20, 30 minutes on repeating everything we're doing. Sending a pre-read always helps in any hybrid session.
Amazing. And as someone who's had freelance clients before, I wish I had your clients. I think we're at time, so we have some time for some Q&A.
Yeah, I'm just does anyone have any questions for our panelists? It can be related to transitioning from student into industry, can be related to something that they said today. Probably got time for a couple of questions before we break off. Yes. So it's not a speak up, but you do need to speak in.
Just for Kieran, how did you build your client base and how many clients are you working with at the moment?
Building it is so far, again, I've only been doing it for less than 12 months. It's pretty much all been word of mouth. So started off with like family friends, and then it was like their friends, and then people at work, and then it's their families, and it's kind of branched out from there. My current plan as a freelancer is to kind of just build like a decent portfolio of these sort of jobs from people I know, and then slowly try to build a bit more of an online presence, which is really hard and quite intimidating as someone who isn't really a social media person as such. Just building up a presence, basically having a website ready. So when people do want to reach out to you, they have a way to contact you and stuff like that. But at the moment, it's pretty much all word of mouth.
Anyone else?
Hello. So speaking of portfolios, do you guys have any advice for like creating case studies that communicate effectively?
Yeah, can you ask the question again? Sorry. Is that all right? I didn't hear it that well.
So speaking of portfolios, so in regards to like case studies, do you guys have any advice on how to communicate well to like the recruiters?
Yeah, okay. I don't do case studies at all, so I'm probably not going to be the best. I'm personally not trying to be like research orientated and that side of things. I'm much more product focused as a person. Like tangible products, I just like absolutely love so much. So I'm probably not going to be the best person to answer this. And I'm hoping I can just throw it over there. One of you guys might pick it up.
I'll pass it to you. I can give a bit of insight, but if I've not covered something, probably you can take over. I just cover like 4 dot points. So what was the challenge? What was your role in it? How did you solve the challenge? And what was your end product? 4 dot points. If you cover that, you have a case study there. So really hone in on that objective. So what were you actually trying to solve? And how did you solve it? And what was your role? Yeah, that's it. Did I?
ChatGPT. No, I'll say get feedback. I would say get feedback because I came from non-communication design. So when I did my portfolio, I showed it to as many people. I just like, okay, I'm going to get very embarrassed, but it's okay. Just show it and get feedback, and you'll and use different tools, like, you know, there's ways like PDF, Notion, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. So, and just, I'm like, I love research. So I would just go research online and ChatGPT.
I love that. I agree. ChatGPT, everything. I think Kanika touched on some fantastic points on how to structure case studies within your portfolio. I might go just a little bit higher level. I think that include everything that Kanika has mentioned, but also focus on this one thing that I think is really, really important, which is impact. What was the impact of the solution that you created for that case study? What problem did it solve for which user or users? Because businesses and most employers, they want to know, okay, what is this problem that you have solved? Be very clear about what the problem is and who that's affecting. And then from that, how did you solve that, to Kanika's point? But also then, what is the impact of that? What was the actual benefit to the user? Was it, oh, they can navigate through this complicated booking process 50% faster than they were before? And then include some metrics like, okay, before it took them like 5 minutes and a hair-pulling headache to get through that whole booking process, but now it takes 1 minute with this solution that solves this problem, and it's given, I don't know, I can't do math, but I don't know, 400% improved efficiency or something. But have the focus on, at every point within your portfolio, focusing on the impact that you had on the user of that problem that you solved. Because it's all about solving problems, especially in the real world. People care about the problems that you solve, how you solved it, and what was the impact of that on the user. Yeah. I hope that helps.
Got 3 more minutes, so if there's a question, perfect, we'll finish up with.
I just wanted to ask you all what exactly your degree was at Swinburne and what was the first job you got leaving uni and how did you get that job?
3 questions in one.
I did the Master of Design Strategy and Innovation, which is not there anymore, I think. Yeah. My first job was at a startup, but before that, I actually did facilitation for the startup for a design thinking sprint. So.
I did my Master of Design at Swinburne, and then within that, I did the Design Factory Global Program. My first job was through networking. I actually did there was a breakfast meetup at Design Factory, and where I met someone who worked in a design agency who invited me to their networking event, where I happened to speak to the CEO and said, "I want a job. Can you give me one?" And that's how I ended there.
I did industrial design and then also did the global program through DFM. My first job was a friend from uni got me an interview, and that was basically it. So just nepotism 101, basically.
I did just an undergrad. I feel really not smart right now. I'm surrounded by geniuses. I just did a Bachelor's of Innovation and Design, which also doesn't exist anymore. Right after I graduated, I got a job working retail at Seiko selling Japanese watches. And it was interesting. It was so funny. Mel and I, Mel's team and my team, were about to present on stage for the GradX presentation for our Innovation Challenge project in 2019. And just before my team was called to present, I got a little notification saying, "Oh yeah, we looked at your interviews for Seiko. Yeah, you're hired. Here's an offer." I was like, "Oh, cool." So that was literally the first job that I got right after I graduated. Not the job I wanted, but I had a passion for watches as well. So I was like, okay, you know what? I could do this for a time. And then from that, I did some. It was terrible because I was only a casual worker, but I was doing marketing research and putting together PowerPoint slides of all this research about how we could expand our brand through social media. So I was just doing all this free work for them, which got us many, many more clients, but I wasn't paid for any of that, which is always nice. And then during 2021, forgot my dates, I saw an opening on LinkedIn for an IBM position for an associate designer, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll apply for it. Went for 2 interviews. I did a side project during that interview process. So we had 1 interview, and then that was my first interview. And then the next week I had a second one lined up. I was like, it's lockdown. There's nothing to do. I'm stuck at home. I can't eat. I mean, I can eat. I have food, but sorry, I can't eat out at restaurants and stuff. So I was like, okay, nothing better to do. I'm cooped up in my room. What do? I decided to just do a side project, a 5-day app design side project. So I just designed an app on Figma, made a presentation. And then in the second interview the week after, I was like, in the interview, "Oh, I've made this thing. Do you want to take a look at it?" They're like, "Oh yeah, send it to us on LinkedIn." I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. After I sent them that, I got the offer the next day. So where you can, I guess the lesson from that is where you can, try and over deliver for a future employer or an employer that you really want to work for. Over deliver as much as you can, do that extra work ahead of time. And yeah, I can pretty much guarantee from my own experiences anyway, that it will greatly boost your chances. Nothing better than showing people free work that you did for them. So
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can we give a big round of applause to our panelists? And also a big round of applause to Jake for facilitating and bringing all the questions together. So I want to thank you guys heaps for joining. I hope there was something that you could take away from that. We will keep kicking on till 8, quarter past, they'll probably start kicking you out. If you've got any other questions for the panelists, catch them before they leave. Otherwise, thank you and hopefully see you again.